Jeanette.
Hello everybody. Any time? Hello everybody, I'm Christian, and I'm going to talk about the future of mankind. The future is uncertain, no doubt, and many things can happen that we can't imagine or assume. However, one thing about the future that not many people think about is the growing population of this human race. It's growing at a pace so fast that it's going to become a problem on Earth. Keep in mind that Earth can only hold about 10 billion people. A website, populationmatters.org, details the UN estimates a population of nearly 9.8 billion by 2050, 30% higher than it is today. It also projects a possible population of 11 billion by then, at which our rates will reach 16 billion by 2100. This statistic shows a new concern about population growth and how prevalent it is. Today we must look at how the uncertain future may pose a threat to the human race by its growing population. We will examine how population growth harms the human race, then we'll identify the cause, we'll identify why the harms are so prevalent, and finally we'll uncover a solution to that problem. Next slide. The future problem of population growth on Earth poses a larger threat than we can assume. Harvesting the Biosphere, the Human Impact by Vaclav Smil explains, in 1900 the total was about 1.6 billion, in 1950 2.5 billion, in 2000 6.1 billion, and in 2010 it reached 7 billion. That's only 3 billion less than the capacity for Earth. Consequently, there has been a 350-fold increase in 5,000 years, more than a 20-fold gain during the last millennium, and roughly a quadrupling between 1900 and 2010. It also goes on to say, and it's, this word's really hard for me to say, it's called quotidian, mental detachment from nature. Modern civilization sees that its fortunes depend on incessant and affordable supplies of modern fuels of energy, hence the concerns about running out or peak oil. This is a problem because if this trend continues this way, we can expect less resources available to the individuals due to more people needing those resources. Now we will explain the causes. Next slide. These are some graphs showing how exponential the population growth is. You can see it's just, next slide. The cause of high population growth is due to the fact of decreasing death rates and a longer life expectancy. This is due to the fact of medical advances in technology. What is overpopulation by Rinkish and Saad Akhtar clarifies. At the root of overpopulation is the difference between the overall birth rate and death rate in populations. If the number of children born each year equals the number of adults that die, then the population will stabilize. This relation shows how we currently see more birth rates than we do death rates. So why is having more people on Earth a bad thing to the human race as a whole? Well, for example, shown on populationmatters.org, Sir David Attenborough has said, all of our environmental problems become easier to solve with fewer people and harder and ultimately impossible to solve with even more people. This logic falls under the principle of supply and demand, in which this case, our supply for resources such as gasoline and food become more difficult and more expensive to obtain when less of those resources are available. Now, I'm not saying to implement a law about about having like China's family law, where you can only have a certain number of kids, or you have to have only female children. I'm not going to say anything like that, but there are way more humane ways to solve this problem of population growth. Next slide. To solve this problem of population, we can colonize another planet in our cosmic neighborhood, or even easier, make a space satellite colony. Why Human Space Settlement by Space Frontier Foundation details, in addition to ensuring that human civilization will always have room to expand and grow, space settlement would guarantee survival of the human species in the event of a global catastrophe, such as an asteroid impact, plague, or other disasters. This example backs up my claim that building a suitable space environment for a colony of people is beneficial to the survival of the human race. It's not that far-fetched either to make a space colony. For example, titled, "Thousands of People Could Live in Space Colonies Orbiting the Earth in 20 Years, Experts Claim," by Ian Johnston, he explains, thousands of people could be living in floating space colonies orbiting the Earth in 20 years' time. Isn't that surprising? According to the head of a project by the British Interplanetary Society, or BIS. This online article also goes on to say that power from space is actually more efficient than generating power here on Earth, and getting solar power as well. There's even a competition among different nations to get a space colony satellite up and running. Titled, "When Will the First Human Space Colony Be Established?" by Christiane Reedy, she describes, on the Mars front, the United Arab Emirates, or UAE, has announced its intention to establish a space settlement on the Red Planet by 2117. Other nations are likely to beat the UAE in reaching this goal, as the US government has tasked NASA with getting humans on Mars by 2033. China has set even a more ambitious goal to get by the end of the decade. So having a space colony in your orbit can help the human race survive for further generations, not only because it helps that problem with population overgrowth, but also helps to avoid natural catastrophes as well. In conclusion, we saw that the future is very uncertain. Next slide. This is a works cited. We saw that the future is very uncertain. The biggest problem of that would be population growth, because it stems out climate change, global warming, etc., etc. And to solve that problem, we can colonize our space, our cosmic neighborhood. Thank you.